I think that was about a year ago. Maybe a little longer. Time gets blurred when you try to forget something, you know? I was working as a night security guard, and at the time I was stationed in a warehouse on the edge of town. It wasn't a bad job, mostly boring. Just me, a walkie-talkie, a few security monitors, and the occasional mouse scurrying across the concrete floor. Nothing was really happening. I just waited a lot. Until that night. I don't remember the exact time, but I would say it was around 3 or 4 o'clock at night. Usually the quietest time, the kind of silence where you can hear your own breathing very loudly. I was sitting in the security office, sipping my stale coffee and looking at the CCTV footage. Then one of the motion-sensitive cameras vibrated. Camera 6, rear loading dock. At first I thought it was just a malfunction, old system, cheap equipment. It happens all the time. But then, the monitor malfunctioned again, and this time, a motion sensor warning popped up. Motion detected, Zone 6. The back dock was supposed to be locked at that moment. No deliveries, no employees, just fences and empty crates. I went live. The screen buzzed for a second. Then, clear as day, I saw it. A silhouette stood at the far end of the pier. I leaned towards it, trying to understand it. It wasn't moving. He was just standing there. He had no flashlight, no reflective vest, just a tall, shadowy figure, barely visible in the dim light of the guardhouse. I knew I was alone in the building. Or at least, I was supposed to be. I did what I was trained to do, grabbed my flashlight and went to check it out. Stupid idea, I know. Horror movie logic, right? But when you're on duty, you don't think about ghosts or demons. You think about junkies breaking in, or some poor homeless guy looking for shelter. I took the service hallway to the back dock. It was long, dark, and dead silent, except for the low hum of the overhead lights. As I got closer to the exit door, something felt wrong. You ever walk into a room and just feel it? Like something is off, but you can't explain why. I reached the metal door that led to the loading dock. It was still locked. No signs of forced entry. I exhaled, feeling stupid for getting worked up. Then, the doorknob twisted. From the other side. Hard. Like someone was trying to get in. I stumbled back, my flashlight shaking in my grip. Then every light in the warehouse shut off. Total darkness. The security monitor in my office must have gone down too, because my radio crackled with static. The only light was from my flashlight beam, and it barely cut through the pitch-black hallway. Then, I heard it. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, coming from inside the warehouse. Not outside. Inside. I swung my flashlight toward the sound, expecting I don't even know what. A raccoon, a trespasser. Some guy who got locked in by accident. But there was nothing. Just rows and rows of tall metal shelves. I turned back toward the office and that's when I saw it. A shadow, taller than me, standing between the shelves. Not moving, just watching. And then it started walking toward me. I ran faster than I have ever run in my life. I don't even remember reaching the security office. I just felt something behind me. Not chasing, not running, just following. I slammed the office door shut and locked it. My heart was pounding. I picked up the phone to call the police, but the line was dead. I checked the monitors. All but one were static. The only working camera, camera 6, loading dock. The silhouette was still there. Only this time he was looking at the camera. And he was smiling. I don't remember much after that. At some point the power came back on, and I must have passed out. Because the next thing I remember is that it was morning and the day shift guard shook me awake. I told my boss everything, and they checked the cameras. Every single file from that night. It was corrupted, no footage, no evidence. Just my story. I quit a few weeks later. The job wasn't worth the nightmares. I haven't worked a night shift since. But sometimes, I wonder, what would have happened if I had opened the door that night? If I had stayed a few minutes longer, and the scariest part, a few months ago, I drove past that warehouse. It was abandoned, shut down completely. And as I sat at the red light, looking at the empty lot, I could have sworn I saw someone standing by the loading dock, not moving, just watching. It was August 2022, and I was working as a night watchman in a park that I don't want to name so as not to mislead people. It wasn't a bad job. Mostly I just walked around and made sure nobody was causing trouble. The park was huge. There were walking trails, an old playground, a small lake, and a dense wooded area in the back. During the day, families came to picnic, joggers did their runs, and children played on the swings. At night the park was closed, but some nights a few teenagers would sneak in. And that's where I came in, to keep out the people who wanted to sneak in, who wanted to cut trees, who wanted to steal flowers. I had been working there for almost 6 months, and nothing had happened except a couple of nights when I caught some young people. No thefts, no vandals, just the occasional stray animal. Then one night, I saw something that shouldn't have been there. It must have been around 2:30 a.m. when I started my patrol. The only light came from dim street lamps along the paths. The air was cool and humid for a summer day, the trees swaying slightly in the wind. As I passed the playground, I stopped. Something was moving. At first I thought the wind was pushing the swing, but then I saw it. A figure sitting on a swing. It wasn't moving. He was just sitting there, looking at the empty park. I couldn't see his face. He was dressed in dark clothes, and his head was tilted as if he was looking down. I thought it was one of the young people sneaking in. I called out, "Hey, the park is closed. You can't be here." He didn't answer. I approached, holding my flashlight. "Sir, do you need help?" Still nothing. I was about to reach for my walkie-talkie when the swing suddenly stopped. It didn't seem to slow down, it just stopped. It was like someone grabbed it. I shined my flashlight over there and it was gone. The swing was still swaying slightly. But that person, he was gone. I scanned the area, my pulse racing. There was no way he could have moved so fast without making a sound. I convinced myself that my eyes were playing tricks on me. This was my first mistake. A few hours later, I was walking near the wooded area at the back of the park. The paths there were barely lit, just winding dirt paths leading into the trees. As I stepped onto the path, I heard something, a whisper, in a low voice, almost distant, like a voice carried on the wind. I froze. The whisper was coming from inside the forest, but the trees were so dense that I couldn't see beyond the first few rows of trunks. Then I realized something worse. The whisper, it was repeating the same thing. It was repeating over and over. "Don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go." I felt my chest tighten momentarily with fear. I turned on my flashlight and shone it towards the trees. Something moved. A shadow jumped out of the trees. It was fast, very fast. I took a step back, and that's when I heard it. Footsteps. He was running. He was running straight towards me. I spun around, expecting to see someone running out of the woods. But there was nothing. The footsteps stopped just before the tree line. The whispers stopped too. I stood there for what seemed like forever, clutching my flashlight, as if it would protect me from whatever was out there. Then the lights in the park flickered, and in that dark moment I saw him. A figure standing in the trees, out of the reach of the light. He was watching me. Then the lights came back on, and he was gone. I should have called in sick the next night. I told myself it was just insomnia, stress, overactive imagination. I was wrong. That second night I went on rounds earlier. I was nervous, constantly checking over my shoulder. Everything was quiet, very quiet. Then, at 2:30 sharp, I heard it again. The swing was creaking. I turned toward the playground. and there it was, the same figure, sitting on the swing. Only this time, he raised his head, and I could see your face. It was my face, my own face. He was looking at me, smiling. The flashlight slipped from my hand. I turned and ran. I don't know how long I ran, but when I finally stopped, I was near the entrance to the park. With shaking hands, I took out my walkie-talkie. I was about to call someone, and then a voice whispered, ... right behind me. You shouldn't be here. I turned around, but there was nothing. I ran to my car. I didn't even exit. I just left. I never came back. I quit the next day. A few months later, my curiosity got the better of me. I drove past the park. It was daytime. Families were there. Children were playing. Joggers were running on the tracks. It seemed normal, but then I noticed something. A swing. It was moving. Not crazy. Just a slow, steady movement. And he was sitting on it. Someone in dark clothes, head bowed, like he was waiting for me. I didn't stop the car. I didn't look back. But sometimes, late at night, when I close my eyes, I still hear it. The whisper, the footsteps. And that voice says, you shouldn't be here. This happened about 2 years ago, but even now, I remember every single detail. I was working night security at an old corporate office building. It wasn't a huge place, just 3 floors and a basement, mostly filled with empty cubicles and storage rooms. My shift ran from midnight to 6 a.m., and to be honest, it was the easiest job I ever had. I still don't know how to explain what happened that night. But I do know this Sai was not alone in that building. One of my main duties was checking the security cameras every hour. The building technically only had 3 floors, but for some reason, the cameras were numbered up to 6. I never thought much of it. I figured it was a system error or a leftover from when the place had been renovated. But that night, around 2:30 a.m., as I flipped through the monitors, I saw movement on camera 6. Camera 6 didn't exist, but there it was, a long, empty hallway, dimly lit, with flickering lights. And at the end of the hall, a shadow moved, not fast, not aggressive, just slow, deliberate steps, moving toward the camera. Then the screen glitched. When it came back, the hallway was empty. I switched through every other camera, but nothing was wrong. The building was completely silent. At least, that's what I told myself. Even though, deep down, I knew something wasn't right. I told myself it was a system error. It was the only logical explanation. But then, at 3:42, the elevator doors rang. That wasn't so strange sometimes. Elevators reset themselves. But then, I heard it. Soft footsteps. Just outside the security office. I held my breath. There were motion sensors in the building, and none of them had worked, which meant that whoever was walking around wasn't supposed to be there. I grabbed my flashlight, as my job required, and walked out of the office with my heart pounding. After all, it could be a burglar. I had to check. The hallway was empty. The elevator doors were slightly open, stuck halfway, the lights flickering inside. And then the elevator moved. I watched it descend, past the first floor, past the lobby, and down, under the building, into the basement. The thing is, as far as I know, there was no basement. Again, I had to check just in case, because that was my job. I was paid to keep the place safe, and I had to check everything. I went down the stairs to the bottom floor of the building, where the maintenance closet was supposed to be. But the hallway was longer than I remembered. The walls were old, cracked, and exposed bricks were visible. The air was damp and dense, like a place that hadn't been touched in decades. At the end of the corridor, where the maintenance closet should have been, there was a door I had never seen before. It was old, wooden, with deep scratches on the surface. Not as if something had hit it, but as if something had scratched its way out. And then I heard it, a voice, whispering my name. I stood for a while thinking that the other employees were playing a joke on me, but what kind of joke could it be? I don't remember getting closer, but somehow I was standing right in front of the door. The whispers got louder. I could hear them breathing. I could feel something behind the door. The handle was rusted but not locked. I felt warm. Now that I think about it, I know I shouldn't have opened it. But I pushed the door open. That's when I saw him. I didn't know what it was. But I saw fingers, long, pale fingers sliding into the darkness, as if waiting for something. And I had caught him off guard. And in the pitch-black space behind that door, I saw eyes. So many eyes. And then the door closed by itself. I turned and ran. I don't remember going back to the security office. All I remember is that the elevator doors opened again, and something came out. It wasn't a person, just a shape. And before I could move, the lights went out. I waited in the security room, unblinking, terrified, until the night was over. In the morning I checked the corridor. Everything looked normal. It was as if nothing had happened. But when I checked the elevator records, I felt sick. Because between 3 and 4 o'clock, the elevator had gone to the 6th floor. What was the problem? I didn't even bother waiting for my paycheck. But before I left, I asked the day shift guy if he noticed anything strange. He just looked at me, and then he said something I'll never forget. "You're not the first night watchman to leave." I asked him what he meant. He shrugged. "They don't last more than a couple weeks. They always say they see things, that they heard something, but security cameras don't catch anything." I asked him about the basement door. He frowned. "What basement?" That was the last thing I heard before he walked out. And even now, I still dream about that door. And every time, something knocks on the other side.